On September 11th, Parlo was falsely arrested by the UK police after a wave of false reports connected to the dupe situation were made.
Arguably the worst thing to ever occur on that day. But ladies and gentlemen, assalamu alaikum viewers, welcome to a brand new YouTube video. I hope you had a good day because I certainly have, and in today's video we're going to be covering this most recent Parlo situation where he got arrested. But before we get into the situation at hand, if you haven't already, please consider liking, subscribing and hitting the notification bell. It really helps out the channel, especially if you do enjoy the content. But without further ado, let's dive into the situation at hand. The situation revolves around accusation that Parlo has been facing by an individual called Dupe.
The dupe claimed that Parlo, when he was 19 years old, tried to meet up with Dupe, who claimed he was for purposes. Dupe, however, lied about everything and left out the fact that he told Parlo he was 17.
The user of that video, Gramgo, then goes into detail about the Dupe situation, but it wasn't actually Dupe that filed a police report or any action against Parlo. It's a completely separate user.
The person responsible for starting all of this is Natspop, who played a massive role in spreading misinformation and pushing false claims directly to UK authorities. Before Parlo was detained, Natspop began publicly boasting on social media about how local authorities were stepping in against Parlo, and even claimed that multiple police departments were now involved in a case against him.
Which, if you actually take a look at that post itself doesn't even have 20 likes. Most people would just shrug this off as somebody trying to fearmonger, trying to scare Parlo or another individual about this situation and not take any more notice of it.
After we confronted him, Natspop's own emails to the police were exposed, and they made it clear that the entire thing was built on lies. In those emails, he provided only 2 screenshots showing Parlo saying he wanted to meet up with Dupe at a hotel. But here's the key detail that he deliberately left out. At the time, Parlo was 19 years old and Dupe had told him that he was 17. That's a legal relationship in the UK. The age of consent in the UK is 16, and both Parlo and Dupe were living there, meaning that legally, there was nothing inappropriate about that interaction according to the law.
Now, Nats later on in this video actually admits it himself that, he never filled in the police on the full details of the situation. He never sent over everything. It was genuinely just these 2 screenshots and not the entire picture.
The first screenshot is the one where Parlo was asking Dupe where they could meet up in a hotel. And then the second screenshot that you provided was Parlo saying that he wanted to make out with Dupe in a hotel. And again, in these same emails, you haven't once clarified that Dupe lied about his age.
And those were the 2 screenshots shown on the piece of paper as well.
No, against that, I haven't highlighted enough to say that he lied. I haven't mentioned a lot that he was lying about his age.
Okay, so again, just for some extra clarification, were you fully aware that Dupe lied about his age when you made this report?
Yes, I was fully aware.
If it isn't already clear, if you are intentionally leaving pieces of key information out of a situation when you are filing a police report, you are obfuscating that said situation. It also shows that you have malicious intentions, because somebody who is doing that out of the good of their heart, who is genuinely worried, would provide all the context of said situation and all the necessary proof, instead of 2 screenshots and intentionally leaving out pieces of the story.
So how many times have you communicated with this officer that you spoke with through email?
Like 5 times.
5 times, and not one of those times you actually mentioned that Dupe lied about his age? Just to clarify.
I did not mention it, no. The only time that I mentioned was on the description.
Again, this shows clear intention. Somebody who is genuine, well-meaning, concerned about the situation would clarify all the details and provide all the necessary evidence and story so the police can conduct a full investigation. Not leave out key pieces of evidence, or at least mention it once in the description of a certain image. Especially when it is something that is so integral to the story and changes how the story is perceived.
Text box when he originally submitted the report, but keep in mind he couldn't even provide any proof of that claim, so he may as well have been lying.
What did you hope would happen to Parlo as a result of this report?
Well, at least a bit of responsibility, at least legally, at least and not in a bad way possible, at least an arrest or something like that, something for him to take responsibility for.
What I can gather from Nads is trying to say here, because he literally isn't making any sense, is he wanted to hold Parlo accountable. Not in a bad way though, because being arrested for something, that's not bad. Look, again, if you have good intentions and you want somebody to be held accountable, you're not going to actively leave out core pieces of information that you know about the situation. You are going to tell them everything and send over all the appropriate information and evidence so the police can hold that individual accountable.
I retract all my comments that I made, all the statements that I've made, all the tweets that I've made, pretty much everything that I said.
What are your next steps from here? What are you going to do?
In terms of what?
in terms of like the police investigation, are you going to contact them to notify them that you lied essentially?
Yes, I will.
Here, Nats can be seen actively walking back everything they've said, and they actively lied in their police report against Parlo.
So technically, what you filed was a false police report. You excluded extremely important information that, in the end, is going to waste a lot of police resources and a lot of their time. And on top of that, Parlo's time, Parlo's money, and Parlo's reputation.
Okay.
Are you aware of that? Do you acknowledge that fully?
I know. I do acknowledge. Yes, I do acknowledge.
According to Gramgo, after admitting that, Nats then started backtracking and twisting his own statements, saying that he never said the report was false during the call.
Without mentioning Dupe's lies was a crime. He even tried to argue that it wasn't his fault because according to him, the authorities should have caught that. That statement alone shows how unserious he was about the gravity of what he did. He openly admitted to leaving out documents that mentioned Dupe lying about his age, but then turned around and said that the police were the ones who didn't read it properly.
But this all then led up to, of course, what is in the title, Parlo getting arrested, but the situation is actually much more complex than that because it wasn't just Parlo that got affected, it was also his family.
Which was actually 12 in the morning for him. I was told by Parlo that his family members had been swatted. Now at the time we had no idea what was going on. It was September 11th, 12 in the morning for him, and randomly 8 bomb vans pulled up to one of Parlo's family members' homes asking for Parlo. This obviously freaked out Parlo's family because they had no idea what was going on. So September 10th went from being a very upsetting day for Parlo because of the community guideline strike to being a genuine concern for his family's safety because he randomly thought he got swatted. But it was actually much, much worse than that.
Of course, if what Grango is saying here is the truth, then that is absolutely despicable. And I think regardless of what side you are on when it comes to Parlo's accusations, I think all people can acknowledge that this is disgusting and something that shouldn't happen to somebody's family who aren't even involved in a situation, let alone just full stop.
At September 11th at 2 in the morning, Parlo and I got another call trying to appeal a strike while talking about what happened earlier in the day. Now, during that call, when we were trying to file that appeal to YouTube, something absolutely insane happened. While writing the appeal, out of nowhere, Parlo looked outside of his window and he saw a bunch of red and blue flashing lights. There were tons of police cars outside of his house with many vans, many cars, and many officers with full-on tactical gear and rifles. At that point, Parlo went on mute. He came back and he told me that he had to leave the call because the police were telling him to get off the phone and shut off all of his devices.
Grango then goes on to state that Parlo claimed that ultimately he was detained for over 12 hours and actually ultimately had to end up sleeping in his own police cell.
Of a false report. Now, to be clear here, Parlo hasn't told me much about the investigation itself. He legally can't. Usually, in cases like this, police confiscate your devices as part of the investigation. Sometimes there's even a bail condition where you're not allowed to contact anyone under the age of 18. I can't confirm if that's what happened here, but based on how these cases usually work, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if that's what he's dealing with right now. Parlo's life was completely turned upside down because of this, all because of one person.
Then after Grango spoke about the situation and what Parlo had claimed happened to him with the police, Grango then goes on to suggest and state that Parlo should actually sue these people pushing these accusations against him and people like Nats who filed a police report against him.
His next step is, but honestly, and I mean this, I think he needs to sue Natspop and everyone else who keeps pushing out these lies. This has gone way too far. He's made video after video debunking everything, putting out all the evidence, showing all the proof, and yet people won't stop. At some point, enough is enough.
Alongside this Gramgo video, a GoFundMe has also been set up for Parlo. GoFundMe titled Please Help. Hello, my name is Parlo and I operate a YouTube channel calling out bad actors and covering extremely important situations in the Roblox community, oftentimes ensuring the platform is a safer place. Recently I've been a victim of a horrific witch hunt by a number of online individuals attempting to harass me, defame me, and ruin my life over lies. I have been since diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety and have been prescribed medication. This situation has caused immense mental distress. I do not ask for anything that you do not feel comfortable sending, but if you wish, all I can ask is a small donation to help me pay for my expenses, food, rent, and other amenities in this horrible period of time. So far, at the time of recording, this GoFundMe has raised a grand total of £57. But I'd be very interested to see what you, the viewer, has to say about this situation, so please feel free to comment that down below, and once done that you want to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. But I've been your host Samuel, you've been watching Slopmuel, and I've been covering this Parlo situation, and I will catch you in the next YouTube video. Goodbye.